Sure.
I have another question though, before I get down from here.
So Dennis,
What,
I was going to say, just due to time constraints, if we want to maybe get all the public comment, and then you can address the commission and any other public comments that they may have
how
of
many
any
minutes have I been
concerns.
so far?
They asked for public comment, so it's time for public comment, and then we'll.
You'll have another chance to come back.
Hello, Jason Zuckerman, 1354 Villery Street. It's a very tough case for y'all as architects that work in historic districts. We all struggle with working on buildings and working with clients that have historic buildings, and a lot of times we struggle with buildings that have been modified over time for the sake of making them maintenance-free and removing historic materials to go with newer, more modern materials to reduce future maintenance. They're not the same. You could peel the skin off of that building and go back with vinyl and with cement board. It's not the same as wood and historic wood siding. I'd like the commission to consider for a minute the precedent that it might be setting if they allow the removal of historic wood siding off a significant building in Old Mandeville in replacement with Hardie. Don't recall any other structures, historic significant structures where we're doing that or where we've allowed that. Not saying it should never be considered. I'm sure there'd be cases where it might be appropriate to do that. But it's a very difficult precedent that I think this commission ought to consider if they allow removal of historic wood siding off a significant building in the historic district. Because future cases that come before you are going to ask the same thing, and before you know it, the historic wood siding's gone in Old Mandeville in the sake of maintenance, future maintenance. Imagine North Star Theater, imagine Rest a While with all Hardie siding. It's not the same as wood. Just some things for the commission to consider. So, thanks.
Nicholas Cressy, appearing for Gerard Classy. Admittedly, I'm coming into this on the fly, and I don't know a lot about the process. However, we have heard a lot about arbitrary and capricious, and it doesn't seem that Mr. Clussy was afforded any sort of documents to determine the thought process of the council. Now, I could be wrong, but if that's he doesn't have anything.
There should be a finding.
We'll let him finish and then the city
If there's
can
written
respond.
reasons, then
No.
that changes everything, obviously. But there's no way to evaluate whether or not what the thought process was in the decision earlier. Now, like obviously, it seems to have been established that the council has the option to say, yes, you can use this Hardie plank that looks, or not. Claro apparently allows for the Hardie plank within the district. There seems to be no precedent, and we're talking a lot about precedent, but this is a civilian tradition in Louisiana, and precedent really doesn't carry the same kind of weight that it does in other jurisdictions. If we relied strictly on precedent, we could never evolve. If we relied strictly on precedent, we would still be a segregated society. So precedent, while important, is not everything. Sometimes it is necessary to change. I'm not saying that this is the instance. I'm just saying don't be married to precedent because it's dangerous. Now, in the situation with Mr. Clussy, I do believe, he has a situation where I guess the real thing is, and if we had written reasons for me to read, I might be better prepared, but the legitimate government interest here is in one that is aesthetic, and that's it. What is the legitimate government interest in aesthetics versus the property owner's right to preserve his property? When a product can be produced that's identical in aesthetics to the old material, no matter what Mr. Clussy puts on his house, it is going to be new product. As he's demonstrated with the old product, you can't get it anymore. So we're never going back to 1919 and getting this wood. That rough cut timber doesn't exist anymore. What we have is the softer wood because we milled the trees earlier. So no matter what happens on this house, it is 2023 product. So I guess what the arbitrary and capricious decision needs to be is, was the council married to the idea that it has to be wood, no matter what the cost to the owner, no matter what the impact it has to the house that he's trying to protect? Or should we make an allowance that people that love their homes in Old Mandeville, should we allow them to safeguard their homes with material that's superior and affordable, so that these structures that everybody's saying we love so much can stand? Because otherwise, if we do not allow that, no one's going to buy these homes, they're going to fall in disrepair, and we're going to lose this thing that we cherish so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Bush said a very important word, which is precedent. So, again, I think we ought to hear from the commissioners, but a ruling overruling the Historic District Commission would set several precedents. One would be that a unanimous decision by the Historic District Commission can be just overruled in a 30-minute hearing in the council. And then the other would be that it would be setting a precedent that I believe the Historic District Commission was concerned about, which is that on any historic structure, you pretty much have to let anybody remove the siding if you allow a couple of people to remove historic siding off a historic structure. So precedent is a very important word when talking about what we're discussing tonight. But I still would like to hear from the commissioners.
Sure. Well, it's